everybody, and welcome to Money Matters. If you like to make money, enjoy learning about crypto and other investment topics, please subscribe to the channel. If you enjoy the content, then hit that like button as well. Let's get going. As a disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor, nor is this financial advice. Let's take a look at the market. It is a green day. Not a big green day, but it is a green day. Our biggest highlight is the fact that we are starting to push up and hold a little closer to 40,000. This entire video is dedicated to looking at the price of Bitcoin and what we will be seeing coming up within the near future or mid-future. We're going to go through quite a bit of analysis, and we will examine each one of the indicators one by one and come to a conclusion at the end. But first, some news. Dogecoin is now going to be listed on Coinbase. Sadly, however, I still truly believe that this is, I think it's a nice opportunity for people to, quote, gamble or speculate on the price of a coin, and it gives an on-ramp. I'm sure that Coinbase will make a lot of money from this. However, this is taking billions of dollars out of legitimate projects and tying it up. So I'm happy for the people who want to trade Dogecoin, because now they can have a nice place to trade. It'll give them a pretty good bump coming up, and I think that it should help with folks who want to trade it on a regular basis. They don't have to go through Robinhood or some of the other offsites. A couple of other things we're looking at. I've been reading quite extensively on some of the new ideas with respect to regulating the crypto space within the United States. And I think that there's more than one agency that's working on it, and they're kind of disjoint right now. But I heard that they're putting together a committee to study and understand what areas they need to tie into and what they're going to be looking at. And I think that a lot of it has to do with folks that are, quote, offshoring their money or using exchanges that are not within the United States, which isn't really too hard to do, and trying to hide their activities. So everything that I've seen leads me to believe that there's really no hiding, and a lot of, or any agency that wants cooperation from an exchange is getting that cooperation. So the reporting is coming through. So I think it's best to try to find legitimate ways to reduce your tax bill, and because the regulations are coming, and they're probably going to be pretty heavy. And this is outside of the taxes. And I don't know if you've heard about Biden's tax strategy for capital gains. I think it was even proposed to be retroactive, which I can't fathom that ever happening. But the fact of the matter is that the percentage will increase. Hopefully it won't trickle down to us little folk and spare us that pain. But who knows? I think that once they find that people who are capable and have the money to be able to avoid paying taxes on it, they may expand that net down to the regular middle class folks and tax them as well. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but we know how taxes are. Death and taxes, that's all you can look forward to. Or those are the only two guarantees in life, I should say. One other point here too, and we didn't, or I did not go over this sorry I keep hitting the camera there, go over this within this video because it was kind of out of scope, but we do have some references to it as well. I think that the turmoil within China, dealing with miners scrambling to either get out of China or sell their equipment or relocate or do something different so that they don't get pinned by the government, has affected the hash rate and the difficulty by which these blocks are mined. So the difficulty rate actually fell quite a bit. It was almost 16%, which I look back for quite some time, and I didn't see anything to that effect for a long time. So hopefully the mining situation will settle down, and a lot of it will be picked up with other countries. I know the United States, there's a ton of different areas that have or governments that are proposing, things that help crypto miners come to their cities or their general areas. And I don't think that there's going to be any problem with relocating into the United States or other countries as well. In fact, I've heard of some Chinese companies actually full-fledged moving operations to the United States. So more to come on that. I think that anytime we can get the preponderance of mining out of China, it's a good thing. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe it'll be a little bit more equitable. I think that was probably the only linchpin in the whole Bitcoin ecosystem, is having so much mining controlled in China. So hopefully that'll be solved now. Okay, let's get into it. What we're trying to do here today is we're looking at an in-depth dive into Bitcoin and trying to understand what the heck is going on and where we're going from here. Because if you're like me and you've been watching videos and reading and doing research, it is up in the air. Some people are saying it's going to zero. Some people say it's still going to 1 million. It's just all over the place. I think that there's a ton of information out there that's not actually correct. I think there's a lot of speculation. So what I wanted to do was try to go through some indicators. These are pretty popular indicators, and go through them one by one and see what they're saying about where we're going. Is it a bull or a bear? Bull being this is a positive indicator, and bear being it's a negative indicator. And I've put a little bull or a bear on each one of these so that it's really evident. So we're going to be looking at quite a few. There's 11, so grab some popcorn, sit back, but it's going to be well worth it. I promise you, this is condensed information that you would have to search high and low to find on your own. So it'll be here for you to see, and then we'll get to our conclusion at the very end and ascertain whether or not we're truly going into a bear cycle, or if we still have some bull legs left to run on. So we're going to go through each one of these one by one. Okay, the first one is the 1-year HODL wave. And basically, this looks at people who have, obviously, they're holding their coins. And you can see on the chart here that the wave, the amount of coins that are being HODLed versus the amount of coins that are in circulation. And this is for 1 year. And when we see a slope, as we put a red arrow on here, we see a steep slope going down. That shows there's a lot of selling pressure, and that the supply is likely to outpace the demand. Now, the interesting thing about this, and it kind of seems counterintuitive, but this would indicate that we're near a cycle top. When I say near, that's a good thing because we haven't got there yet. So you can hardly see the little green dots on there, but each green dot and one of those dark purple humps indicates a market top. So you can see that we're in a downward turn, and it's probably kind of turning up. But once we go through that top, we will hit our top coming out. And of course, we're going to be looking at timing on that too, because it's not really clear when that would be. But according to this chart, according to this indicator, we still have room to go. So this indicator gets a bull. It's a positive indicator that we are not heading into a bear market, that we have at least one more leg up on pricing. How high, we don't know yet, but at least we know that there's still a top to be put in. Okay, the next one is the 200 week moving average multiple. Now, this level of support is used to determine the overall long-term market trend. And this is important too, because you can use different multiples, but this one is a multiple of 4, meaning that Bitcoin is trading at 4 times its 200-week moving average. In prior bull markets, Bitcoin has traded as high as 10 to 15 times its 200-week moving average prior to entering into a bear market. Currently, we are at 2.85. So if we look at topping on top of that a 10 to 15x multiple, that would say or suggest that we have not hit our top yet. First of all, we know that just by this chart, we know that we haven't hit our top yet. And we could, according to this chart and historical information based on this indicator, land somewhere between $130,000 to $193,000, which, if you think about it, for a long time, and I'm talking about since December and the optimism started, that right around 150 to 200,000 has always been kind of the target for this particular cycle with respect to Bitcoin pricing. So this kind of jumps right into that and holds up that argument. So we're giving this chart and this indicator a bull sign because it is positive, saying that we have yet to achieve our top. Okay, next we have bull market weekly support. Bitcoin's 20-week exponential moving average and 21-week simple moving average. When Bitcoin breaks below both moving averages, the likelihood of Bitcoin's bull market coming to an end is heightened. So you can see right here we have a cross. We've recently had a cross where we have an indication that we are definitely heading into a bear cycle. So if Bitcoin remains in this lower segment or lower portion of the chart, then we're definitely heading into a bear market. Now, what I'll say here is that this has been one of the main indicators that people are looking at with respect to trying to understand where Bitcoin price is going. This is where a lot of the confusion is coming in. There's a lot of indicators that are showing positive trends, but this one in particular, which is a very powerful indicator, is showing that we're heading into a bear market. Now, if you look at current pricing today, where we've reached above 38, you'll see that this chart is starting to turn around. So perhaps, and this is just speculation, of course, perhaps the price was brought down due to a lot of the nefarious activity on whales or whatever, who was ever manipulating the market, and it hit so hard that it held it down below this average longer than the intent was, or longer than it really should have. If that's the case, then obviously this would be a moot point and we still would be considered above this line. So my guess is that sometime this weekend, early next week, we're going to see whether Bitcoin can pop its head above 40 and start to work its way up to putting 40 in as a floor. If so, this chart will be irrelevant. However, as this chart stands today, we are giving it a bear because it's saying we're heading into a actual bear market. This is a clear indication that this is what's going to happen. So unfortunately, this is a bear. This is an interesting one too. Google trend searches. So, and there's a tack on I'd like to add on to this as well. This, of course, is searches that are happening on Google relative to bull cycles and pricing. So a lot of folks are trying to ascertain whether or not we're still in a bull cycle and whether or not we are going to maintain that. So if you look at the chart here, we registered an all-time high. And if you look over, and this was just, I think it was in February. And if you look to the right, see how far we're peaking. It's peaking over here. It's going up. The pink is going up, but it's not touching or not close to the price line. So if you look historically back, you can see that when those searches peaked and they were coinciding or touching, or at least close to the blue line, which is the Bitcoin price line, that indicated a local top. You can see that the price of Bitcoin is on a small drop on the hook on the bottom, but you can see that the searches are spiking, but they have yet to converge. They have yet to get closer together. That would indicate that there's still room to grow on this one as well. So this chart's going to get a bull, and I looked at it again today, and it's actually gone up even further. So this is a positive sign that people are looking for the price to go higher. So we give this Google Trends a bull. Okay, next we have logarithmic growth curve. And this one is, I'm sure you've seen this before. There's a chart that I reviewed for Ethereum called the Ethereum Rainbow chart, and it's kind of similar to this. But the growth curve consists of two sets of curves. The first one is the pink one that's on the top, and the bottom one, of course, is the green one. And the green is considered support, and the top is considered an upward kind of cap. I'd prefer to say a target, because if you can see in history that once we break into that pink area, not necessarily through it, but once we're in the pink area, that's where we would be in a top or similar top of the market. But if you look at this chart and you can see that we kind of went up to it and then came back down, you might think to yourself, okay, well, we do have diminishing returns as time goes by, but is that an indicator here? Did we go up as high as we're going to go and now we're heading on our way down? Well, I personally don't think so. I think that, and if I put some details on here, I'm going to read through them because it's kind of interesting. It's a little bit confusing, but Bitcoin is 133 to 205% away from being overbought. In other words, getting into the pink territory. But we're only between 37 and 51% away from hitting the green, or dropping even below that, which is about 17,000 to 23,000. So if you think about all of the charts that we've looked at up to this point in time, including the bear charts, I would say that this is still a bull chart. We're still going to give this one a bull. And the reason being that if you look historically, especially back in 2013, 2014, we had a rise up where we did not quite touch that upper band. We came back down and then we went up to peak again. And if anything's clear to me, this cycle is much more similar to the 2013 than 2017 period. End of story. That's just every chart I've seen, every person I've listened to, that is what the conclusion is. That being said, if we're repeating 2013 or some facsimile thereof, this would indicate that we are going down, but we're going to be coming back up into or past that pink line, which would be our upper band. And again, we're going 85,000 above. So that kind of sings the song that a lot of folks are singing as well. So this one's going to get a bull. I do agree with this one wholeheartedly as well, with everything that I've read. And this is kind of like the calm before the storm, the rocket storm, where we take off. We're recovering from the ship sinking, or we were in the dinghy. Now we're going to get ready to climb up onto the Queen Mary or the Enterprise or some big ship or whatever, where things get really good. So this one gets a bull. Okay, now we're going to look at the logarithmic retracement curve. This is a little bit different, and we're going to go through this one carefully too, because this is a really good indicator. But I think if you look at it, you can see some similarities to the previous chart, especially where we are right now with the little teeny hook at the bottom on the top. But anyway, this retracement curve uses the growth curve's uptrending support line and historical, this is important too, historical price action to back into an implied market cycle top. So this growth curve supports a 385 days from its 36,000 day price. If Bitcoin corrects, and we are talking about 70%, and you can look historically and see, oh, well, 50%, 70%, 80%, whatever. If we correct 70% this market cycle, the top will be predicted at about 120K. And that is the retracement to support the 385 days from today. So what we're saying here is that if we continue to go down, and when we get to 300 and when we get to the bottom of that particular cycle, then the top side, when we recover back up, would get us over 120,000. If it's an 86% correction, which is a greater correction, we would go up to 262,000. And if it's a 90% correction, we go to 362,000. Now this makes sense, because if we're looking at previous activity, you can look at these giant dips in price action and then the gains that they make over a span of time. So you can see we're getting into a fairly long span of time, at which point we need to have a recovery. So we have, as we talked about 2013, we have our first dip. We didn't make it all the way up. we're going down, but then we should be turning back up. And at that point in time, we should pass above that. It's a green line right there, and touch into the upper bands, which would get us to these different price points. So time is kind of on our side here. We're getting towards the end of that time, but if you look at the diminishing, or not diminishing, but the additive drops that we've looked at or cumulatively over time, we should be getting to a point where the recovery or the next pop up would be somewhere between 80,000 to 150,000. And we're seeing that in those numbers over and over and over again. And this kind of supports that as well. So this one definitely gets a bull because we haven't topped yet. It is saying that we still have a ways to go, and it looks like it's going to be a very positive end to this story. Okay, let's look at monthly upper Bollinger Band and RSI both. So Bollinger Bands, for those of you who aren't familiar, are used to measure volatility when trading above the upper band. An asset is considered overbought. If it's trading below, it's considered oversold. So the Bollinger Band here is the blue line, and you can see that where it says oversold in that red arrow, all of our closes have been down below that as of recent times, which would indicate we're oversold, which is obviously not a good thing. But you want to look at that in conjunction with RSI, or Relative Strength Index, to understand, hey, is this really happening or not? And typically, depending upon how you set your RSI, traditionally people go with the 30/70. So if the reading's below 30, which is the bottom of the purple box, that indicates oversold. And if it's above the 70, which is the top of the purple box, that means it's overbought. So, well, you can look at the arrow here and see that we're right in the middle of the purple box, kind of towards the top, which is a good thing too, because we're neutral. We're not really showing that we're overbought or oversold. But if you look at the very tail end of that curve, you can see that it's kind of leveling out and getting ready to go up. So we're going to have to give this one a bear. The bear being because the Bollinger Band, we're down below it. It's indicating that we're bearish, to say the least. However, the silver lining here is that RSI is showing basically neutral for this particular instance. So although we still have to give it a bear, it still kind of has a positive twist to it. Okay, Merv Z-score. This is probably the most convoluted chart, and I really simplified it for my own sake, because trying to explain the details of it, even in my own mind, was not an easy task. So a lot of these terms are just, take them for what they are. But a Z-score between 7 and 11, which is the pink box there, suggests Bitcoin is overbought. So if we're in that area, that's an overbought. When it's between 0.9 and -3, the green box at the very, very bottom, Bitcoin is believed to be oversold. You can see there's radical jumps and drops within this chart. So again, if you look here, it looks like, I mean, we're definitely heading into, oversold territory, but we're not there. And as we've seen in previous charts, a lot of these indicators show us that we just fall short of these telltale indicators saying, you're done, buddy, you're done. And it says, whoop, we might have a little bit of hope here. So if you look at this, even though it's going into oversold, with consideration of these other charts, this is a good indication that we are almost at a point where we're going to turn around and head up. So we're going to give this chart a bull for that particular reason, because this bull cycle is not over. According to this chart, this bull cycle is not over yet. And I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt, so we gave it a bull. Sorry about the black bull. It's not showing up well in that background, but it's a really cool looking bull. Okay, PI indicator. Most of you guys are familiar with this. Bitcoin's PI indicator leverages the 111-day moving average and the 350-day moving average, multiplied by 2 to identify market cycle tops. And that's pretty straightforward. Historically speaking, when the moving averages touch a top in the current market cycle has been or will be realized. Okay, so we have set that top. We set it about 2 weeks ago. Not 2 weeks ago, but we've set it according to, to this point in time, and it doesn't correlate specifically with other charts. This one kind of stands on its own. However, you can't deny the fact that it's in black and white right here, or pink and blue, whatever you want to call it. We're below it. So this indicator is straightforward. We're in a bear scenario here. We have to take it for what it is. And again, I think that there's some tricks being played, or have been played. And unfortunately, we broke a little too low in a lot of these indicators. It was just an accident or a fluke, but the hit was so hard a week ago and the week prior to that it just devastated the price of Bitcoin, and it devastated a lot of people. And remember, the market trades on people. People drive the market. Their fears, their greed, it's what drives the market. So I still think that even if you look at this chart, there's still hope. But we had to give it a bear because this is a clear bear. SOPR indicator. Okay, Bitcoin spent output profit ratio, SOPR, is an indicator, as an indicator, shows if investors are in profit or loss. Above the 1, which is the line going across, they are in profit. Below, they are at a loss. So, as you can see, we're up and down all over that line as time goes by, and typically a rise in price will correlate with folks being in profit. They'll be further above the line, obviously, because their investments are making money. So you can't really see it here, but the very furthest line is touching the 1. It's not below it. It looks like that line is below it, but there's more than one line there. There's 2 lines. And the line to the right is touching that 1. So it's dead even. People are not making money and they're not losing money on average. So this one gets a bull and a bear because it's a tie. So hopefully, and actually, in all actuality, this is a positive sign too, because if you looked at that little line, it's going up and touching the 1. So if it continues to go up, that's a positive thing, and which we've been talking about since we started this. A lot of these indicators show that there's room to go up. So hopefully this is just additional support to that argument. All right, stock to flow, which is one of my favorites, and I think that a lot of people like to look at this as well. But Bitcoin's circulating supply, stock, against its expected production of new supply, flow, to get to stock flow ratio. That's how you calculate it. When prices trend above the stock to flow ratio, the divergence is positive, and thus Bitcoin may be considered overbought. As you can see, we are clearly oversold currently. So although you might think that that is a bad thing, if you look historically, and again, this line is pretty consistent with operations. So the ratio will follow the price of Bitcoin fairly closely. I mean, it really does. But if you look back at history, and specifically towards right at the end of 2013, 2014, you can see that once we dip below that, it doesn't just keep dropping. This stays very close to the price. And in fact, this was, if you look at the entire chart, you can see that this past drop that we had was very abrupt. It's very sharp and steep. Well, it's going to be, it's a ratio, so it's going to be coming back up. To account for that, it would indicate that we're going to go above the line, so that we're going to have basically a solid recovery with respect to the trend here. Now, the timing is the critical part of this. There's a lot of factors that are in play, but that telltale swoop down tail that we've seen on all these other charts is right here as well. It's the same thing is happening over and over and over again. So if history is any indicator, which it usually is, we should see a fairly sharp turnaround in pretty short order. So we gave this one a bull, and I'm going to stick with that one as well. I think that this is going to be a positive indicator going forward, and it'll play into the recovery very well. So let's do a little recap. Today we looked at some in-depth analysis and some indicators for understanding the price of Bitcoin. If you think about this in the context of what we've been through, where we had euphoric highs and a big run up in the price of Bitcoin, and then some catastrophic price drops that were premeditated or not, but they were very impactful. It left us in a shambles. It left us in a kind of a dazed state of affairs where we really didn't know or understand, or were not familiar with the feeling that we're in. For those of you who've been around a while, you know what it's what it's like to go through some of these drops. It didn't surprise me at all. It was sad, but it didn't surprise me that it happened. I wish it hadn't, but whatever. Things have to go down to give you the opportunity to go up. So a lot of people were given the opportunity to buy things at a low price, and especially Bitcoin. I think who would rather buy Bitcoin at 65,000 versus 30,000? Not me. So it gave a lot of people, not just whales and institutions and rich people, but regular people, the opportunity to get Bitcoin at a discount. The fact of the matter is that as a pristine store of value, Bitcoin is not going away. It is just going to get better. And if you want to watch a great video, go to Invest Answers. James is the guy who runs that show. Brilliant math dude, super nice, extremely intelligent. Has been in trading and markets for like 30 years or something. Brilliant guy. Anyway, he did a great video last night on Bitcoin going to $1 million, and he laid out all of the things that he sees that would indicate that that would happen. And this guy knows his stuff. And one of the interesting things that he played on was this inflation agenda, or this all of the media attention that's coming around inflation, and how that affects people and what they're doing. And if you've never watched Blockchain Backer, he's another really great YouTuber, and he talks about how people are manipulated through the media to do certain things, and he lays it out so clearly it's not even funny. So between those two guys, it really does give you a good indication of where we are and how we're going to be heading to a different place. Now, I would agree with both of them that it is going to go higher. Blockchain Backer has a limit to the heights, and then it's going to crash. But Invest Answers, James, he has a little different outlook. I don't think that he looks at the short term as much as he looks at the long term. So I try to look at both of them at the same time, because for me, if we talk about the money flow, you're going into Bitcoin, you're coming out of Bitcoin, going into Ethereum and altcoins, you're making money, you're going back into Bitcoin. It's a cycle. You're doing these things over and over again. You want to make profits, but you also want to keep your foot in the door for all of this expected gain within Bitcoin, because there are only a very limited supply of Bitcoin left. And when these giant funds and governments and other entities start to buy it up, it is going to become scarce. And when things become that scarce, the price is going to go through the roof. I don't care what's happening. It's just going to go through the roof. If people want it, it's not there. People are going to offer more and more and more and more money to get it. So the future is bright. I think that we will be turning around here very shortly. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say we should be in 40s. That's above 40. I'm not going to say we're going to close consistently, but we'll be above 40 sometime by the end of next week. I'm hoping to hit it this weekend. I hope this is a happy weekend, not one of those bloody weekends that we have where everything goes to crap on Sunday night. But quite the opposite. It goes up, and there's a nice spring in the step of Bitcoin, and we go back up. And again, from my perspective and a lot of people's perspective, we need Bitcoin to show some strength in this retracement so that altcoins can break off, take off, and really bring in some some gains for folks like myself. So we're looking very, very forward to that. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about this analysis. Let me know if you agree with it or disagree and why. And if you think that we're going to head up into a bull market, continue in a bull market, or if we're going to be drug into the bear cave, bear den, and have to sleep out the winter. That's gonna suck. But let me know what you think. And last, but certainly not least, winners never quit, and quitters never win. Always give your very best effort to overcome the challenges that you face in life. I hope you had a great day. I had a great day, and I will see you tomorrow.